Welcome to the Blockbusters and Birdwalks podcast. I am the curator, Garrett Chaffin-Quiray. Today we have a conversation with a friend.
This is Ed Rosa, bon vivant, professional simpleton, and you can check out my and our work on youtube.com at Toothless Richard Productions. This is Gateway Cinema, episode 18. Congratulations, you made it. And we're discussing Heathers.
I thought I'd seen Heathers. I was mistaken. What I saw was Pump Up the Volume.
Everybody knows the fight is fixed. The poor stay poor and the rich get rich. That's how it goes.
So, Heathers, I'm glad that you put this in front of me, because as I've just said, I thought I saw it and I did not. I do know that it is not just a cult hit, because it is, but it was a dramatically terrible commercial experience for everybody involved in it. It was a bomb.
Yeah, I mean, and why would you expect anything else?
Yeah, and it gives life to another sort of phenomenon, which we've mentioned around the edges of our long-term conversation series now, and that is the value of home video. If this movie had not been available on videotape beginning in the very early 1990s, there would be no Afterlife, and we wouldn't care, except as a sort of a footnote on the career of that lady from Stranger Things. I know Winona Ryder from that series that I have recently been nibbling on, which I don't quite like, but I don't quite dislike.
Right.
And when we go back in time to see her in the flower of her maturation into young adulthood, which is where we find her in Heathers as the star of the show. Her actual name is Veronica. What we see is a person really is blooming into complete stardom.
Yeah.
And the movie's a bomb.
Yeah.
Yet, because a lot of us watched it on videotape, again, not me, but a lot of my peers, so I can remember whole tracts of dialogue from this because it would be whispered in the halls of my high school.
Right.
And I know certain references because they were whispered in the halls of my high school. And as I've aged, every now and then, DJs will speak it on the radio because they're roughly my age thinking back about high school.
Right.
The videotape experience redeems a movie like this one that had a hard time finding its real-world audience at the time of its release. And so on that, another sort of chain of sort of deep track references. One of the reasons why it did not find an audience is that its production company went belly up bankrupt. Now that I'm 52, watching this thing from a great remove, I'm wondering to myself, who exactly would be told to go see this?
Me.
Yeah, and who exactly would feel like it was a great movie? Because I found myself having a troubled experience watching it that was guided by the fact I have misremembered my whole relationship to it dating way back, but I am so glad videotape kept it on shelves. I'm so glad that people who were more in the know than I am, who were roughly my age, decided they were going to make a project of keeping this movie's flame alive.
Yeah, that's actually how I found it. I did not see it in theaters, but when I was in high school, like, this was my jam. You know, it comes out in like 88 or 89. I forget, like, I've seen both.
Well, it
was listed.
It was shown in 1988 complete.
Okay.
But it did not get released
until
1989.
Okay.
So that's the confusion.
When it comes out, you know, I'm just basically, I'm not white in high school, like I'm almost in high school. I had not only a very unorthodox academic history, but also I've just been a very unorthodox person. When I did get a hold of this, the darkness and the cynicality, is that a word? Like
cynicism.
The cynicism, there we go.
But I like cynicality.
Cynicality, right?
That would be a whole website and podcast all on its own.
I was trying to, for the longest time, I was like, what do you say for the
noun form?
The quality of something possessing merit. Meritorious, I think is the correct word. But it took me forever to learn that. Anyways, so, because, I mean, this often sort of gets mentioned alongside, like, the John Hughes.
Right.
You know,
and
films,
that's
like
a correct reference.
So take like The Breakfast Club, for example, which is a film that I love dearly, and each time I revisit, I find more value in it, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic. This spoke far more to my nihilistic sensibilities as a teenager and my view of the world and my high school, my scholastic experience.
In brief, Heathers is about a character named Veronica, that's Winona Ryder, who's being jumped into the popular clique at her school. All 3 girls are named Heather. She's not like them, but wants to be like them.
She's the Zeppo to their Marx Brothers.
Correct. She's an oddball, and actually she's the most beautiful and most charming and most interesting of them, regardless. This new kid in school, J.D., and that's Christian Slater, who is in fact a psychopath who's raised by a psychopathic single father. They fall madly in love, but he wants to murder the Heathers. Gradually starts to do that. They cover up the crimes until finally she has to save her entire high school, literally her entire high school, the physical building and everybody inside of it, from J.D. who wants to blow everything up. Movie's over. She finds an oddball kid she's been kicking around the whole movie, and they fade off into the hallway. Heathers. The experience of watching it at this age, where I am, having an adult child and a middle school child, is so... It makes me think about the adults in the lives of these movies.
Right.
You mentioned a moment ago Breakfast Club. There was the moment when I was a kid watching Breakfast Club, and I'm like, I am the nerd, Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
I'm not the jock, and blah, blah, blah. And then there was a day I watched it again on cable, and I'm like, I'm the teacher. Grabbing the newspaper to go have a shit.
Right.
Watching this movie, I couldn't believe how unaware and obnoxious all of the adult characters are. If not overtly stupid, cruel, and just their own malignancy on humankind.
But isn't that true? Isn't that
It feels
real?
that way when you're young. Yeah, it certainly feels that way, at least sometimes. And I didn't understand that was going to be the tone here. In the Hughes movies, that's often the case too. It's a world apart. The teenagers exist in teen world, and the adults that pipe in are there being guidance counselors or driving a child somewhere. You forgot your lunch sack or whatever it might be. But here the adults are
Your intensities for shit.
Yeah. And here the adults are actually completely monstrous. As I was watching this, I kept thinking about Weird Science.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about Fast Times. And those are also 80s movies about teenagers, which were a little bit more tonally like this one.
Yeah.
Where crazy things kind of start to happen that you have to sort of accept. But Fast Times is ultimately a fable that is about good people doing bad things and redeeming themselves by acknowledging that and moving on into a bright potential. Weird Science is about these dorky kids who do weird science, but again, their friendship persists, not unlike, say, the kids in Superbad, and they come out the other side knowing that they have something better on the overall world.
They've learned a lesson.
They have.
Things aren't so bad.
And they're going to be okay because they're helping each other.
They can date real girls now.
Not just Steven Seagal's ex-wife.
Right.
But this movie, it just says the adults can't do anything to help you, and your only way out is just murder every difficult kid you've ever met, including the difficult kid who wants to murder the difficult kids. Murder him too.
Right, right.
And if that doesn't work, let him blow himself up. It's such a bummer of a movie. And yet it's got this fluffy dialogue.
You know, I have a little prepared speech I tell my suitor when he wants more than I'd like to give him. Gee, Blake, I had a really nice...
Save the speeches for Malcolm X. I just want to get laid.
Palatable or not, that's really how a lot of people talk. That's really how a lot of people are.
And that's useful because this movie is about types.
Your daydreams are a lot better than my realities, believe me.
The composer for this is David Newman of the Newman family. Alfred Newman, Randy Newman, their relatives.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's a superpowered musicians family going back 3 generations. A big deal. The entire score is synthetic. It's all on electronic instruments, synthesizers.
Yeah, placing it firmly in its time.
It completely... This is the 80s.
Yeah.
You instantly know where you are. And it's very familiar because so many movies of my youth have that kind of synthetic sound. And what synthetic sound means, as I'm saying it, it's both a description and a pejorative. A synthesizer makes it thus synthetic. A synthetic kind of music is also very, very superficial. It's surfaced. It's typed.
Right.
This is music because it's sound that goes into my ear. That's exactly how all the characters in this movie operate, with the exception of 2 people. And that is J.D. and Veronica. But J.D.'s a monster. We don't realize that at first because Christian Slater was told, or I think he was told, do your Nicholson. Maybe that's unfair. He's always hated that comparison. I don't know. He doesn't call me. Christian, reach out. Let me know what the truth is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that is a reference to something that was already in popular culture. And when you reference something in popular culture, it's superficial. Mm-hmm. Synthetic music is superficial. Mm-hmm. The 80s felt very superficial. This whole movie is extremely superficial. It's typed and stereotyped. And that magnifies some of the ideas that are at work, because the difficulty of these people, of J.D. and his monstrous psychosis, of his father's monstrous psychosis, which is modeled for the son, who then starts to act out on people over and over again, is the lack of consequence, the lack of realization that you are causing pain. Also, J.D. has this one, it's kind of a throwaway line. It follows when J.D. and Veronica have engineered a particular moment where they mutually kill these two football players who are harassing everybody. She doesn't realize that's what's happening until she's participated and killed one of them. He kills the other. Right. And they're having this big fight afterwards. And he explains to her,
football season is over, Veronica. Kurt and Ram had nothing to offer the school but date rapes and AIDS jokes.
Oh, my God! That's exactly what I remember about the rough kids on the football team. Because by the time December rolls around, you're just waiting for them to thrash you in the halls, to be jerks in class and distractions that the teachers are clearly exhausted by.
To tape your butt cheeks together.
Now, that wasn't uniformly the case of how all football players dealt with the world, but it's certainly true of a few, enough that it's memorable enough of a joke to land inside of this movie. And to your point about using off-color language to characterize people, it's to make them types. And because this whole movie is about laying waste to types, that the only way there is redemption happens at the very end of Heathers, and it's when Veronica reaches out to this other put-upon poor girl who everybody's been savaging the whole time through, and acts kindly towards her. Let's skip prom together, get some new releases at the video store, and hang out instead.
Right.
That's the human moment. Otherwise, the movie has no human quality really whatsoever, except a little bit of the carn, because the young people make out or want to make out, and they're excited that way, and that's a universal. There's a lot of sexual experience that goes into people's imagination, and there's also, I guess I should mention, one other moment that comes to mind, and this is Veronica's turning point. It's also one of those big memes that come out of this movie. When J.D. and Veronica attend the funeral for the two football players who they killed, and they make it look like a suicide pact between two gay lovers who've been on the down low so long they don't know how to persist except to murder each other in their underpants in the woods.
Right.
It's the whole...
I don't care that you really were some pansy. You're my own flesh and blood, and you made me proud. My son's a homosexual, and I love him. I love my dead gay son.
It's open casket. And the football players are in suits with their helmets over their face.
Like next to each other with footballs.
It's outstanding.
I love my dead gay son.
It's a wonderful, over-the-top scene. And Veronica starts to giggle. And then it cuts to a point of view shot of her looking down the aisle of the church towards the caskets. And a little girl in the front pew looks back at her, we presume to be the younger sister of one of the dead young men. And that's a moment of reflection for her. Now, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm catching myself. We are meant to root for a girl who falls in love with a clear bad boy, who starts murdering people, and then she saves the school from being bombed, but she still murdered somebody, and we cheer.
Yeah, she's the hero.
Way to go, Winona.
Yeah, right.
This is silly. This is not something that I should be for. But when you get through the movie, you are in the position of thinking, yes, I like this murderess.
Yeah.
I hope she gets away with her crime.
Especially, because also, too, like, when she giggles, it's partially because after the dad's like, I love my dead gay son, J.D. says...
How do you think he'd react to a son that had a limp wrist with a pulse?
Totally true, because that's why...
Because he's dead, I can love him.
Right.
If he were alive, I have to deal with the fact I got to adjust my expectations and tolerate, indeed embrace, a child who is homosexual.
Right.
And a lot of adults then and now are not prepared to do that.
Especially when I don't know exactly where this is set geographically, but if it's
Ohio.
Flyover... Oh, that's right. So it's, that's exactly where... I mean, you would think this...
You drop your joke and fly over America, like you were saying,
exactly.
And that's where it lands.
Exactly. Watching it as an adult, I have the moral capacity to, be like, well, I mean, come on, you know what I mean? But when you're in high school And you are an outcast like JD. I was never as hot or as cool as JD.
He's hot and cool.
Yeah, I mean...
motorcycle, no helmet, cigarettes in the hallway of school.
I absolutely fell in love. I loved Christian Slater. I thought, I just loved, this was like
Christian,
the best.
again, if you're going to call me, call my friend Ed.
Please.
A few things that they're all context reminders of where we are now in 2025. Columbine hadn't happened yet.
Right.
So we weren't yet creating an entire fervency in our social structure to prevent violence in schools. And this movie makes jokes of that. We meet JD in the back of a lunch... By the way, this is the second movie we've watched in a row which has really nice-looking cafeterias.
Yeah.
The Midwest seems to just... Midwest and New Jersey seem to provide children with good meals. We see what's on the platter of kids eating at the school cafeteria, and it was a chicken pot pie with some peas and some Jell-O and some juice and some chips. Right. That is a great meal.
Yeah, right.
So leaving that aside, Christian Slater's in the back of the room, speechlessly observing Veronica being ordered around by this clique of Heathers trying to fit in and clearly not fitting in. And he has, we don't realize this quite yet, he's wearing a trench coat which set a tone. Like, you got to have a trench coat to be cool.
I did.
I wanted one so hard.
I
have one now because I can afford one because I'm in middle age.
Yeah.
But it's because I wanted one like him.
Absolutely. That's why I got one.
And he's concealing in his coat like a .357
big gun.
Dirty Harry style gun that he then threatens the bad boy, the two jocks he'll eventually kill. He shoots blanks into their face. We don't know they're blanks at first. It looks like he's murdered them in the cafeteria. Well, to make a joke about having a gun in school is not going to fly with a certain stripe of people today.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
But the notion that you could go to school with weaponry was possible.
It's really funny. I had my best friend in high school. His adoptive father, had like a gun cabinet, and he straight brought a gun to school one day, and I stole it out of his backpack and I took it home.
Oh man!
And I was like, and I gave it back to him like the next day. I was in like a very small school, and I was never going to shoot anybody.
But having this incredible power,
well, and I'd never seen one before, and I was like, wow. Yeah. But and he didn't even notice that I had taken it from his bag and taken it home. So it was like, that kind of thing was like way possible back then,
right? The other main thing that came out of this, aside from just the thrill of watching adults just smoke cigarettes in the teacher's lounge, which I remember they used to do that, and it would smell bad, and then children can't go in there, both because they don't want to have that violated by kids walking into an adults-only area where you can curse and fart and let it out and complain about the children, but you have a smoke.
Yeah, I also remember looking in the door. I peeked in the door one time of the teacher's lounge in elementary school, and they had a Coke machine. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, if only I had $1 in my pocket. Like, I never carried money in my pocket until I was 20.
Yeah, right.
So all of that is those are topical references which resonate. But the bigger thing, and this, of course, naturally just fits the world of today, is this movie's about suicide. Mm-hmm. It's fundamentally about how these murders are carried out by J.D. kind of provoking Veronica into avenging themselves on behalf of all children against these popular girls, led by Heather Chandler, who's just dreadful. And Heather Chandler, to get the name out, that is Kim Walker, who's terrible. What an awful person she is. I hope Kim Walker in life is a wonderful person.
I'm sure she is.
But her role is just, what a monstrous person. Nonetheless, they carry this off like it's a suicide, and then that seems to set in motion this chain of other suicides, which is actually J.D. covering up what their crimes are, until eventually a suicide attempt happens, and other kids start thinking about suicide. And then this seemingly hippie-ish kind of guidance counselor, Pauline Fleming, that's Penelope Milford.
A more realistic version, I think, of Drew Barrymore's character from Donnie Darko.
There you go. Right, wants to intervene and help these children. But she's a gadfly, and also she just wants TV attention because there's a TV crew that kind of focuses on all of this. The devastating capacity of what suicide does to people is quite dramatic. I wasn't close to a suicide growing up, but I was like in a tertiary relationship with a handful of them over my lifetime. Where, your friend who's mourning the death of their friend, and you think, I feel bad, but you didn't really know what it's all about, so you just kind of give them some space. Plus, it's uncomfortable, and you don't want to get involved because somebody's pain is going to bring your pain out, and sometimes you avoid it, especially when you're immature. But I mean to say, this movie centers on that. In fact, the kids listen to a song that's defined by and inspired by the suicide of the Central Heather.
Teenage suicide. Talk to it. Teenage suicide. She blew it. Teenage suicide. Talk to it.
The kid that was my best friend that brought the gun to school, he also didn't shoot anybody.
Good.
But he was my best friend, and he committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
So that's another thing that really sort of resonates with me about this movie. His suicide happened,
in childhood or later.
No, we were teenagers. I think I was 15.
Wow.
And he was, I think, 16, maybe just turned 17. First off, there were no copycat suicides, but there were, in the aftermath, a couple of different students who were now seriously contemplating it and who were talking about it. Also, the way kind of everybody in this film uses the suicide, it's like they don't care about Heather. Is McNamara the one that
Chandler?
Okay, okay.
They cover up as the suicide.
They don't really care about her. Most of them didn't really like her. I mean, somehow she's the most popular girl in school, even though she's
dreadful to everybody.
Right? And I guess she's kind of like Donald Trump in that way.
Right.
He's somehow the most popular guy in the world, but everybody that knows him hates him. So her suicide becomes a way for them to then try to
use that loss for themselves. Yeah.
to glorify themselves in some way, or to
One
be
of the
part of
nerdy
it.
kids is like, this can go into my Princeton application.
Right, or all trying to be on TV to talk about her in a positive way, even though. And so when my best friend killed himself, it seemed to me that everybody knew that we were best friends. Being a year to 2 years older than me, he was just starting to get laid. I wasn't. I was still at this point
a virginal kid with appetites,
right?
No outlet.
During the lunch hour, I'm sitting in a room with a closed door with the other nerds playing riffs and Dungeons and Dragons, while he's out rapping with girls. He obviously, being a little older and a little more popular than me, he had other relationships. But in my mind, everybody knew that we were best friends. When this happened, nobody really gave a shit about me. So here I am,
years later, yeah.
But trying to make it about myself, right? You know what I mean?
But it affects you.
It did. It absolutely did. And everybody really, it seemed like it was the popular kids in the school that got all of the the attention and the sympathy, and people caring about them and stuff. Now, obviously, as an adult, when I think back on this, it is a way more complicated thing than I could possibly have understood at that age. Mm-hmm. It's wrong for me to think that these people were undeserving of their grief or whatever attention they got.
But you needed support too,
which was not there, or at least you know what I mean. And so, it just, I felt like I had kind of a personal connection to this story in a way that really reinforced this as true, even though it's an oversimplified, over-cynical way to look at things. But also, take the N-word, right?
Right.
There's a lot of people that can't use it, right? But there are some people that can use it. If you're a Jewish comedian and you make Jew jokes, that's okay because you're Jewish. If you were a non-Jewish comic, making those same jokes,
it doesn't land.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, what? You'd be anti-Semitic and all this kind of stuff. I feel I have earned my right to suicide jokes. I get to make these jokes. I get to laugh at these jokes. These jokes are okay.
And they're speaking to you.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Because, if you haven't been there, who are you to tell me, oh, you can't make this kind of joke or that this isn't funny? In fact, I can't think of a better way to deal with it than
turn it into humor.
I mean, what Camus said, you have to embrace the absurd, right?
Yeah.
Because this whole thing is absurd and ridiculous, and if we don't, we're just all going to commit suicide.
Right.
So with this film, not only do I sort of relish the fact that it is willing to just have so much fun at the expense of suicide, but also it does kind of tickle me that other people want to get upset about it.
This movie, in addition, has that old standard issue thing where we're in the lives of children, and I think Veronica's defined as being a junior. So she's 16 or so?
Yeah, I think Winona Ryder was actually 16 when they cast her for this.
Really?
I think so.
Because I was just going to say, most of the cast look like they're people in their 20s.
Yeah, well,
all of the extras look like proper adults. You know,
Lisanne Falk, she was 23, but she lied and said she was 18, I guess. I read that.
To land the role.
Yeah. I read that in the trivia.
Everybody looks slightly too mature. But I also want to emphasize, these are all white kids. These are white kids in the burbs of Ohio.
There's one black kid on the yearbook staff.
Oh, that's
who's
right.
talking about who wants to do the 2-page spread for Heather and put a suicide note right in the middle, like in the yearbook.
That's a really good deep track joke of publishing somebody's suicide note in the yearbook.
Right.
It's a great little detail. And most of the kids here are astonishingly wealthy. We know this because Veronica's our point of view character. Yeah. She lives in this palatial house.
They play
croquet. I remember that being a fad for some reason around the adults in my life in the early 80s. There were some outdoor activities where a croquet set would get wheeled out.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
You'd tap in the arcs and you'd take the hammers. But that's what they're playing. And it's all of this greenery, all of this space. It's a lot. Nobody seems to lock their houses. It seems to be perfectly normal for these teen children to walk into one another's homes. But then the threads these kids wear, the Heathers, every time we see them and it's a new day in the story world, they're wearing magnificently gross 80s costumes, padded up
shoulder
shoulders.
pads.
Yeah, this really great fluffy hair. It's a moment that is fortunately mostly past us, except for people who are being hip and ironic, I think. And there's a place for that. But this was this was serious. This is how rich kids could dress. There are jokes about we'll go to the mall and buy shoes. Like, seriously? You have money to buy shoes?
Yeah.
I didn't have money to get that Coke we were talking about.
Yeah, right.
To go buy shoes all on your own?
I couldn't afford to go see this at the movies.
That's right. Like, it depends on mom and dad or somebody, grandma, giving you a little dose of money so you can go somewhere. Anyway, this stuff just piles up with both what it is as a text, but then also what it is not as a context. And a lot of this movie, I think, you can peel away these topical issues, however serious they might be, whether it's suicide, violence in schools, drug use, alcohol use, sex play. These are all things I wasn't exposed to until I was an adult.
Right. Only the cool kids were.
And they're talking about, you're not even getting laid yet. There are these jokes about fellatio.
They had a sword fight in your mouth last night.
Right! Swords, penises, oh my gosh! It's clearly a good piece of scripting by Daniel Waters. However, this movie could not be made today. This stars appealing young adults playing teenagers to attract the eye of teenagers who want to see their story world enacted through metaphor and symbol, because it's set in a high school about people who are awkward and the misfits not fitting in, the popular kids who run the show. And these things which are very familiar to young people who go to any kind of massive experience like school.
Right.
It will resonate, even if it doesn't resemble your actual experience. It has a mood and an emotional backbone to it.
This thing spoke to me so much like adolescent truth. It's important to know that you're not the only one that feels this way.
And let me just give you a contrast of the times. Say anything.
In your eyes, the light, the heat, I am complete.
Cameron Crowe doesn't envision a psychopath being the second bill star of your movie.
Right.
He envisions a romantic who doesn't fit in, but he loves a girl and wants them to go on the adventure of their future together and commits to her fully. JD wants to burn the world, and he hopes that she'll go along for the ride and that she has a conscience is an irritant. And he even says she fakes her own death by hanging, partly so she can escape him shooting her in the face.
Right.
He says as much, I was going to kill you, it's too bad you did this to yourself. And you can see he's quite sad.
Yeah.
It's a funny way to attempt to humanize this character who becomes more and more grotesque as it moves along.
Well, it's funny too, because then like he has that line very towards the end that's really, I mean, it's really kind of on the nose, but he's like,
I'm gonna clean the slate as much as I do. Right. So maybe I am killing everyone in the school. Because nobody loves me. Let's face it, all right? The only place different social types can genuinely get along with each other is in heaven.
his feelings are totally real. Like, nobody does love him.
So we realize that JD is sort of the embodiment of a piece of her subconscious, which is leaked through her diary entries.
Dear Diary, my teen angst bullshit has a body count. The most popular people in school are dead. Everybody's sad, but it's a weird kind of sad. Suicide gave Heather depth, Kurt a soul, Ram a brain. I don't know what it's given me, but I've got no control over myself when I'm with JD. Are we going to prom or to hell?
There's a fairy tale overlay, and I think part of it's going to Oz. Part of it is the experience of realizing there is no place like home. And what we're reminded of in several spots in the overall movie, that Veronica's home is those earlier friendships with the other awkward girls she cast off in pursuit of being a Heather.
Right.
But she can't be a Heather because she's a Veronica.
Right.
That's a more natural fit. Plus, they get to go to the video store. Maybe we're actually watching a wraparound experience. The whole movie, from JD's introduction onward, might just be her active fantasy Dear Diary. Then, as a conclusive statement about this movie being a conclusion to Gateway Cinema as a project, is to say that a lot of times we go to movies to have conclusivity defined by the arc of the movie's story. JD is a figment or not, but he's gone. Veronica is a murderess, or she isn't, but she's now found herself. And that's what aging is about.
Right.
And when the right people bump into that material, it is exactly the healing or the celebration or the mourning that they need.
Right.
At the right time they need it.
Exactly. It was for me. These negative patterns will continue and persist in society. You can change things for yourself.
And if you do, Veronica will one day save her sons from the upside down, and JD will one day employ Mr. Robot to bring down criminals.
Right.
This is Blockbusters and Birdwalks. I'm the curator, Garrett Chaffin-Quiray.
I'm Ed Rosa, bon vivant and professional simpleton.
Boop boobity doo.